Hi, I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So the man, pound for pound, one of the best fighters, top 3 in the world, Guillermo Rigondeaux, he returns in February on the Miguel Cotto versus James Kirkland undercard. Now, this is not a tune-up bout. This is a serious fight for Guillermo Rigondeaux. And that's against the hard puncher, undefeated Moises Flores. In fact, Guillermo Rigondeaux's trainer, Pedro Diaz, he believes that this opponent is going to be Rigo'S toughest opponent, even tougher than Nonito Donaire. He believes because of his height of 5'9" and the fact that he's an aggressive Mexican fighter, undefeated and young and ambitious, makes him a tougher challenge than Nonito Donaire was. Now, me personally, I don't believe that this guy will be as tough as Donaire was. I believe Donaire, he definitely put up a good fight against Guillermo Rigondeaux, considering who he was in the ring with. I don't believe that this guy will do as good as Rigo. I believe the more aggressive you become with Guillermo Rigondeaux, the better chances you have of being knocked out. Floyd Mayweather Sr. said it best. The quickest way to get knocked out is trying to knock somebody out. This is why you often hear fighters say, I'm not going in there looking for the knockout. If it happens, it happens. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Flores, he comes out looking really good, looking aggressive, and really pushing the fight. But I feel eventually that's going to be his demise. And if he's aggressive like that, he will end up getting knocked out eventually. This is the reason why the majority of fighters, when they go in the ring with Guillermo Rigondeaux, they respect him like he's Mike Tyson. You notice that? You notice the majority of Guillermo Rigondeaux's opponents, even the ones that usually are aggressive and they throw a lot of punches, when they get in there with Rigo, they don't let their hands go because they're so worried about getting caught with something and getting knocked out. We've seen this with Joseph Agbeko. We've seen this with Jazza Dickens. We've seen this with a lot of opponents that Rigo has faced. They're afraid to let their hands go. So he instills this type of fear in his opponents when they get in the ring with him. So I truly believe Flores' best chance in this fight is coming into the ring blowing up like Julio Cesar Chavez does in weight. His rehydration. Now, if Flores goes into this fight and he rehydrates to 20, 30 pounds, that's obviously his best chance. But if their weight is close to the same, I see Flores get knocked out within 6 to 8 rounds if Flores is aggressive. Now, once again, unless he goes in there all of a sudden fighting an extremely technical fight because he really respects Rigo's power and skill, then that's a different situation. But we will see. We won't know till fight night. Now, with that all being said, let me close with this. Decafs. Let me break this down and explain to you. Using code words to express how you feel about a certain fighter or a certain race does not justify why you don't like that person personally. In other words, using code words like, that guy is boring, that does not justify why you personally don't like him, why you personally hate him, right? Once again, when it comes to Tyson Fury's last 2 performances were very boring. But I've never said that Tyson Fury is a boring fighter. I've never said that. I've never said I don't like Tyson Fury because he's boring. Understand something. Once again, there's a difference from saying, I don't like that person personally, maybe because he's on a coincidental list, or that person is boring, or that person has been in a couple boring fights. That's a difference. One has nothing to do with the other. This is how you know they use that as an excuse to alleviate their own guilt, because they don't want to accept. Because after all, no one wants to admit that they're evil. No one wants to admit that they're the bad guy, right? So you have to justify your disdain and your hate. And this is what they do. So I just want everyone to know right now, when you hear that word boring, that is a code word for what they really want to call Guillermo Rigondeaux. And we already know what they really want to call people on the coincidental list. We found that out yesterday in those Golden Boy emails when they were talking about what they really wanted to call Al Heyman. And they said what they wanted to call Al Heyman in that email. Okay? We know what time it is. Do you really think it is just a mere coincidence that the only fighters that get called boring, even when they get knockouts, even when they're in fights that can be easily candidates for fight of the year, like once again, like Rigo was when he fought against Amagaza, right? Rigo has 3 knockouts in his last 4 fights, but they still call him boring. Even if he goes toe-to-toe with Moises Flores and he knocks him out, they'll still say he's boring. That's how you know it's a code word. So my point is, do you really think it is a coincidence that the only fighters that get called boring are fighters on the coincidental list? And once again, no one is saying, I don't like Tyson Fury. I don't like Carl Frampton because of that boring performance he had against Scott Quigg. Forget about the Leo Santa Cruz fight. Before the Leo Santa Cruz fight, the Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg fight, that was a very boring fight. But you never heard me say, I don't like Carl Frampton because that was a boring fight and he's a boring fighter. You don't hear the decaf saying, I don't like Scott Quigg, I don't like Carl Frampton, I don't like Tyson Fury. Carlos Cedras, he's a fighter who does a lot of moving, and if you were looking to personally dislike someone and you were trying to find an excuse to not like them personally, you could easily put Carlos Cedras on that list. If Carlos Cedras were on the coincidental list, he would be considered nothing but a boring runner. Just like they say about Erislandy Lara, right? Do you know Carlos Cedras, he moves around the ring more than Erislandy Lara does? And no one says how boring he is, how much they dislike him, etc., etc. This is how we know it's a code word. Anything you only call one particular race is a code word. If it doesn't apply to everyone else, it is a code word, okay? And something else I want you guys to catch. When you hear these decafs on the internet talk about how they dislike almost every current fighter on the coincidental list today, right? They dislike all of them. But then all of a sudden, once they start to feel that they're exposing themselves, then all of a sudden they try to tell people, oh, and by the way, I'm not racist because I have a black friend and my favorite fighter is Joe Louis and Mike Tyson, etc., etc. Don't fall for that shit. Do not fall for the okie doke. You expect me to believe that you hate all of these fighters today on the coincidental list, but your favorite fighters are fighters on the coincidental list 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 60 years ago, whenever, right? Muhammad Ali. How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? You can't find one fighter today that you actually like the way you like fighters back then. The fighters that have the same style, The same type of personality that maybe this fighter you say you love 30 years ago, the same fighters that have those type of styles today and personalities, you don't like them. You know why they do this, guys? Because when they say Muhammad Ali, he's one of my favorite fighters, etc., Mike Tyson, these fighters are no longer a threat to their actual favorite fighters today. They're not a threat to anyone anymore, right? Once again, for a fan to sit over here and say, or a decaf to sit over here and say, I hate all these fighters on the coincidental list today. Oh, but I love Muhammad Ali. Do you really believe that if Muhammad Ali was in Golovkin's division, right? And he was a modern day fighter today, and Muhammad Ali was talking all the shit that he talked back then, and Muhammad Ali did all that moving in the ring, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. He's talking about how ugly Golovkin looks, like he did Joe Frazier, or I'm just saying, just imagine Muhammad Ali talking and acting the way he did back then, doing it right now. But saying these things, instead of clowning other fighters on a coincidental list like Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston, George Foreman, now he's clowning fighters on the hope list. Fighters like Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, etc. You honestly expect anyone to believe that that type of person would be your favorite fighter today over a Golovkin, over a Canelo? Come on, man. We know what time it is. We know what time it is. These same fans, they won't even support their own countrymen. They rather support fighters from other countries just because they have the complexion for the protection. Oh, but all of a sudden you're telling me that Muhammad Ali is your favorite fighter. Let me give you another example so you can understand how ridiculous that sounds. Imagine if I'm telling you, I hate Golovkin. I don't like Golovkin. That guy is this and he's that, etc. I say all of these things, right? But then I turn around and I say, oh man, but I love Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano, that was a monster. You know, Rocky Marciano, he's my favorite fighter, etc. How would that make sense? How would that make sense when Rocky Marciano, he has a style very similar to Golovkin? The only difference is Golovkin is 10 times better than Rocky Marciano. So how does that make sense? And what would you say about a person like that who says something that ridiculous? I hate this Golovkin guy, but Rocky Marciano is my favorite fighter. What would you say about a person who says something like that? We know what you would say. Especially if a person on a coincidental list says something like that, you would say, oh man, that guy is a racist just hating on Golovkin. That's what you would say, right? So let's be real about this. None of this makes any sense. Muhammad Ali, that's your favorite fighter, but you hate Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather is a runner in the ring. And when you think about it, if you know anything about boxing, you know that Muhammad Ali, he moved around the ring way more than Floyd Mayweather did. So how does that make any logical sense? It doesn't make sense. And the reason why it doesn't make sense is because it's not true. And it's far deeper than you not liking a fighter's style. Code words, guys. Code words. Boring, runner. These are all code words. One more time. Because if they weren't code words, then these fans would be applying these insults or this type of criticism towards fighters of all different races and nationalities. Once again, I end this video by saying this. On this channel, we speak the whole truth. That's what you see in my logo. This channel is based on speaking the whole truth and doing it unapologetically. Love without truth is hypocrisy. But truth without love is brutality. Okay? that obviously means the truth hurts, but it shall also set you free. If you don't want to hear the truth, you need to stay off of this channel, because we're not playing with them. We're not playing with them. If you don't want to hear the truth, stay off the channel, unsubscribe, because this channel is only for people that want to hear the truth. Now, if you're feeling guilty because you are part of the problem and not the solution, that's the reason why you wouldn't want to hear the truth. But don't go to a Muslim church every Sunday if you don't like the Muslim religion. I mean, can you imagine a Jew going to a Muslim church every Sunday and he can't stand the religion? He totally disagrees with everything they say. But yet he wakes up every morning to make sure that he's there every damn week. Does that make any sense? Of course it doesn't make sense. So if you don't want to hear the truth, don't come to my church. As simple as that. If you do keep coming, it's because deep down you know it's the truth. You may not like the truth because it doesn't fit your agenda, but you know deep down it's the truth. That would be the only reason you would keep coming back to my church, right? So remember, man, these code words are like speaking a different language. You ever been in that situation where someone is speaking a different language and maybe they keep using a certain word about your ass and you don't know what they calling you, but then later on you get the translation? Well, you just got the translation of what boring and runner, gay runner, and all of this stuff actually means. Now you know the translation. So when you see that posted in the comment section or you hear somebody say that, you could just say, I read you loud and clear. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.